Before anything meaningful can be built in the world, it must first be understood within the self. Most people search for purpose by looking outward. They look at markets, they look at trends, they look at what others are doing. But clarity does not come from observation alone. It comes from reflection, from the willingness to look inward without distraction, without performance, without needing immediate answers. Self-understanding is not a single moment of insight. It is a practice of noticing patterns, of observing what draws your attention and what quietly drains you, of understanding not just what you want, but why you want it. Without this understanding, ambition becomes scattered. You may move quickly, but not deliberately. You may accumulate, but not feel grounded. This is why many people build impressive lives that still feel misaligned. Their actions are productive, but not integrated. Wealth built without self-knowledge often magnifies confusion rather than resolving it. True purpose begins when you slow down long enough to ask better questions. Questions not about speed, but about direction. Not about outcomes, but about values. When you understand yourself, decisions become quieter. You stop chasing every opportunity and begin recognizing the right ones. This discernment is essential in real estate. Real estate does not reward constant motion. It rewards patience, clarity, and alignment. The properties you choose to own often reflect how well you know yourself, your tolerance for risk, your relationship with time, your ability to sit with uncertainty without rushing toward relief. Self-aware investors move differently. They do not rush to prove competence. They do not force deals to work. They allow opportunity to align rather than insisting it comply. This calm posture is not passive. It is deliberate. It comes from knowing what you are building and why it matters to you personally. When purpose is internalized, wealth becomes a tool rather than a distraction. Real estate becomes more than an asset class. It becomes structure. Structure that holds value across time. Structure that reflects intention. Structure that supports life rather than consuming it. To build wealth that lasts, you must understand how you relate to ownership. Ownership of property. Ownership of decisions. Ownership of responsibility. Some people seek wealth for control. Others seek it for freedom. Only those who understand themselves know which they are truly pursuing. This distinction matters because control demands constant vigilance. Freedom is sustained through systems. Real estate, when chosen intentionally, creates systems that operate quietly in the background. Income becomes predictable. Time becomes flexible. Energy becomes protected. But none of this works without inner clarity. Without clarity, systems feel burdensome. With clarity, they feel supportive. This is why self-reflection is not separate from wealth creation. It is the foundation of it. When you know yourself deeply, you stop building to impress and start building to sustain. Sustain your values, sustain your energy, sustain your future. Purpose is not something you discover once. It is something you refine through honest reflection and aligned action. And when that refinement is paired with real estate, assets rooted in permanence and time, wealth becomes more than accumulation. It becomes expression of who you are, how you think, and what you intend to leave behind. This journey begins inward, quietly, without urgency. And from that quiet understanding, everything you build outward begins to make sense. The deeper you understand yourself, the quieter your decisions become. Not because you lack ambition, but because noise no longer guides you. Most people mistake intensity for clarity. They believe strong emotion means strong direction. But emotion fluctuates. Identity endures. When identity is unclear, decision-making becomes reactive. You respond to pressure rather than principle. You chase reassurance rather than alignment. And over time, this creates a subtle exhaustion, not from effort, but from internal contradiction. Self-understanding removes contradiction. It does not eliminate difficulty, but it simplifies choice. You begin to recognize what truly belongs to you and what you have been carrying out of habit, expectation, or fear of missing out. This recognition changes everything, especially in real estate. Real estate magnifies the inner world. It amplifies patience or impatience, discipline or impulsiveness, confidence or insecurity. When you do not know yourself, every deal feels personal. Rejection feels like judgment. Waiting feels like failure. And uncertainty feels intolerable. But when you understand yourself, space opens between stimulus and response. You stop reacting, you start evaluating. This space is where wisdom lives. Wisdom is not speed, it is perspective gained through honest observation of self. You begin to notice patterns, not just in markets, but in your own behavior. When do you rush? When do you hesitate? What triggers urgency in you? What triggers avoidance? These questions are not philosophical, they are practical, because the same tendencies that shape your inner life will shape your portfolio. Someone who avoids discomfort will struggle with long-term ownership. Someone who chases validation will overextend. Someone who fears stillness will confuse activity with progress. Self-knowledge protects you from these traps. It teaches you when to wait without becoming passive, when to act without becoming reckless. This balance is rare, and rarity creates advantage. The most effective investors are not those with the most information. They are those with the most self-awareness. Information changes daily. Self-knowledge compounds. When you know how you think under pressure, you prepare for it. When you know your tolerance for risk, you structure deals accordingly. When you know how you respond to responsibility, you build systems that support rather than overwhelm you. Real estate rewards this preparation. It does not reward emotional brilliance. It rewards consistency of behavior over time. Consistency is only possible when actions are aligned with identity. Otherwise, discipline feels like resistance. But when identity and action agree, discipline feels natural. You stop forcing yourself to behave a certain way. You behave that way because it reflects who you are becoming. This is where purpose deepens. Purpose is not a role. It is not a title. It is not something the world assigns to you. Purpose is coherence. Coherence between your inner values and your outer actions. When coherence exists, work feels grounded even when it is difficult. When coherence is absent, even success feels hollow. Many people pursue wealth without examining why they want it. They inherit narratives, freedom, security, status. But until you define what these mean to you personally, wealth remains abstract. And abstract goals create scattered behavior. Real estate demands specificity, specific timelines, specific cash flow needs, specific management tolerance, specific responsibility. Self-reflection sharpens this specificity. You begin to ask better questions, not how fast can I grow, but what kind of life am I building? Not how many units can I acquire, but how much complexity can I carry sustainably? These questions prevent burnout before it begins. They protect not just capital, but clarity. Clarity is the most underrated asset in investing. Without clarity, opportunity feels overwhelming. With clarity, opportunity feels selective. You stop fearing missed chances because you trust your direction. Direction dissolves urgency, and urgency is the enemy of long-term wealth. When urgency disappears, patience becomes possible, and patience is where real estate reveals its power. Time does the heavy lifting. Cash flow stabilizes. Debt amortizes. Assets mature. None of this requires constant attention. It requires initial alignment and ongoing stewardship. Stewardship begins inward. If you do not steward your energy, you will mismanage property. If you do not steward your emotional life, decisions will be distorted by fear or ego. This is why self-reflection is not indulgent. It is strategic. The strongest portfolios are built by people who are comfortable being alone with their thoughts, who do not require constant stimulation, who can sit with uncertainty without panicking. This comfort is learned, it is practiced, and it begins by turning inward honestly. You begin to notice when you are acting to escape discomfort rather than to create value. You begin to notice when you are overworking to avoid deeper questions. These moments are invitations, not to stop building, but to build with greater intention. Intention transforms accumulation into legacy. It turns property into permanence. It allows wealth to serve life rather than consume it. When you know yourself, you no longer measure success by volume. You measure it by alignment, by how well your investments support the life you want to live, by how much mental space they free rather than occupy. This is the quiet sophistication of mature investors. They are not trying to impress, they are trying to endure. Endurance requires self-honesty, because the market will test you, cycles will shift, conditions will change. When they do, the only stable reference point is who you know yourself to be. Self-knowledge does not prevent difficulty, it prevents panic. Panic destroys more wealth than bad markets ever will. And where real estate transforms from an investment vehicle into a long-term expression of who you are and how you choose to live. At some point, self-understanding begins to widen your sense of time. You stop experiencing life only in days and months and start experiencing it in seasons and years. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything about how you build. Short timelines demand urgency. Long timelines demand patience. And patience, when paired with clarity, becomes one of the most powerful forces in wealth creation. When you know yourself deeply, you no longer feel pressured to extract everything from the present moment. You understand that some things are meant to mature. This understanding is essential when thinking about legacy. Legacy is not about how much you accumulate. It is about how well what you build continues without you. Most people never reach this stage of thinking. They remain focused on immediacy. The next deal, the next win, the next result. But self-reflection naturally pushes your awareness forward in time. You begin to ask different questions, not just, will this work, but will this last? Not just, can I manage this now, but will this still serve me and others years from now? These questions slow you down, and slowing down is not a disadvantage. It is an advantage disguised as restraint. Real estate is uniquely aligned with this way of thinking. It exists across time. Land does not disappear when attention shifts. Buildings remain when trends fade. Property carries memory, effort, and intention forward. This permanence forces honesty. You cannot rush something that is designed to endure. You must respect its timeline. And respect for time begins with self-respect. People who do not respect their own limits struggle to respect the demands of long-term ownership. They overextend. They underestimate maintenance, emotional and financial. They confuse growth with expansion. But those who understand themselves build differently. They build with margin, with reserves, with room for error. Margin is not inefficiency. It is wisdom applied structurally. Legacy is built in margins, in the space between what you could extract and what you choose to preserve. Preservation requires restraint. Restraint requires self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, restraint feels like loss. With self-knowledge, restraint feels like protection. This distinction matters deeply in real estate. Land and property reward those who protect value patiently. They punish those who demand immediate gratification. When you understand this, wealth stops being about acceleration and starts being about continuity. Continuity is the quiet goal beneath most ambition. People want stability, they want predictability, they want to know that what they build today will not unravel tomorrow. Self-aware investors accept this truth early. They do not try to outsmart time. They align with it. Aligning with time means building systems that function even when attention drifts. It means choosing properties that can be managed without constant intervention. It means designing ownership that supports life rather than dominating it. This is where legacy quietly begins, not with declarations, but with decisions made consistently over time. Legacy is not loud, it is repetitive. It is built through standards that do not change with mood or market sentiment. When you understand yourself, you stop building to prove worth. You start building to express values. Values like patience, like responsibility, like care for what you own and what it supports. Real estate reflects these values clearly. Poor stewardship reveals itself slowly. Good stewardship compounds quietly. Over time, the difference becomes unmistakable. This is why land and property have anchored wealth across generations for centuries. Not because they guarantee profit, but because they demand discipline. Discipline filters out impulse. Impulse erodes legacy. Discipline preserves it. Preserving something meaningful requires accepting that not every season is exciting. Some seasons are simply stable. Stability is undervalued in modern culture, but stability is what allows people to breathe, to plan, to build lives around something reliable. When you build stability through real estate, you are not just securing income, you are securing options. Options for yourself, options for your family, options for future decisions that cannot yet be anticipated. This is the deeper meaning of wealth, not abundance for its own sake, but flexibility rooted in security. Security does not come from chasing growth endlessly. It comes from understanding what enough looks like for you. Only self-reflection can answer that question. Without it, people build endlessly without ever feeling settled. With it, people build deliberately and know when to stop pushing. Knowing when to stop is as important as knowing when to act. This balance is rare, and rarity creates long-term advantage. Legacy builders are not immune to doubt. They simply do not let doubt dictate behavior. They rely on principles rather than emotions. Principles derived from self-knowledge are harder to shake than motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Principles endure. This endurance is what allows wealth to pass through time rather than evaporate within it. When you view real estate through this lens, it becomes less about deals and more about direction. Direction that reflects who you are, how you think, and what you want to sustain beyond yourself. Self-understanding turns ownership into responsibility, willingly accepted. Responsibility, willingly accepted, becomes stewardship. And stewardship, practiced over time, becomes legacy. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is quiet, incremental, almost unnoticeable day to day. But years later, the result is unmistakable. A life built with coherence, assets that support rather than strain, and wealth that reflects intention rather than impulse. This is where self-reflection ultimately leads. Not inward forever, but outward into something that stands, something stable, something capable of carrying value forward long after effort has softened. This is the work of those who understand themselves deeply enough to build something that endures. When everything you've reflected on begins to settle, one truth remains. Nothing meaningful needs to be rushed. Understanding yourself does not demand constant action. It asks for alignment, and alignment changes how you move without forcing you to move faster. By now, you may notice something subtle. The pressure to prove has softened. The urgency to chase has quieted. In its place is a clearer sense of direction. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. This steadiness is the result of knowing yourself more honestly. You no longer need to build from insecurity. You no longer need to react to every opportunity. You can choose deliberately. And choice, when made from self-understanding, becomes power applied calmly. This is what all of this means. You are not searching for meaning anymore. You are shaping it through the way you decide. Real estate now fits into this picture naturally, not as a shortcut, not as an identity, but as a structure that supports what you value. Property becomes a container for intention, a way to translate inner clarity into something tangible and enduring. What remains to be done is not complicated. It is simple, but it is not easy. You must continue to act in alignment even when no one is watching. You must respect time rather than trying to conquer it. You must choose assets, and Gerson say, commitment that support the life you want to live, not just the image of success. This means fewer decisions, but better ones, fewer distractions, but deeper focus. Wealth built this way does not consume you, it stabilizes you. It creates room to think clearly. It creates space to live deliberately. And over time, it creates something more valuable than accumulation. Continuity between who you are, what you own, and what you leave behind. You do not need to have everything figured out. You only need to remain honest with yourself as you move forward. Let reflection continue to inform direction. Let patience continue to shape decisions. Let real estate serve as a long-term ally, not a constant demand. This is how purpose becomes lived rather than imagined, quietly, consistently, over time. Nothing more needs to be added right now. Just carry this forward and allow what you build to reflect the clarity you've earned. All right, this is it. I want you to listen to me after hearing all of that. I want you to really listen to this next. Before you move on with your day, take one quiet breath here. Nothing needs to be decided right now. Nothing needs to be proven. What mattered was the willingness to listen inwardly. Clarity does not always arrive as answers. Sometimes it arrives as calm. Sometimes it arrives as the absence of urgency. Let that be enough for this moment. Carry what resonated with you gently. You don't need to rush its application. Over time, alignment reveals itself through small, consistent choices. Trust that what you are building within yourself and outwardly will continue to take shape as long as you remain honest and patient. When you're ready, simply return to your life, grounded, present, and moving forward at your own pace.